Criminal defense attorneys and Fox News contributors Josh Ritter and Donna Rotunno coming up in focus. First, I want to go to our correspondent, Jeff Paul, who's at the courthouse in Provo, Utah. Jeff.
Yeah, and that hearing here in Provo set to get underway in a few hours, and that's when it could be decided whether or not the Utah County Attorney's Office stays on this case or is thrown off completely. This all really centers around a claim from the defense that there is a sort of bias or a conflict of interest at the Utah County Attorney's Office. Lawyers for Tyler Robinson argue because a prosecutor's adult child was at that Turning Point USA event when Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, they can't stay impartial, therefore they should be removed. According to an affidavit, the adult child was a student at the time and still is, was standing around 85 feet away when they heard a loud sound, and after people started yelling that Kirk had been shot, ran with the rest of the crowd. They then texted their family members that, quote, someone got shot and Charlie got shot. Now, prosecutors are pushing back, saying the adult child didn't witness the actual shooting, couldn't see who fired the shots, and has no firsthand knowledge of the killing. They don't believe there's any legal or ethical conflict to force the removal of a deputy county attorney or the entire office. Now, former New Jersey prosecutor David Gelman isn't surprised by the defense's argument, but he doesn't think it'll be successful.
They're grasping for straws, and that's what the defense has to do. Defense is arguing for their client, and I can understand that as a defense attorney. You try to do everything you possibly can, but at the end of the day, the judge is not going to allow it.
Now, court is set to get underway 3 o'clock Eastern, 1 o'clock local here in Provo. Harris.
All right, thank you very much for getting us started with that. In focus now, Josh Ritter with me here in studio and Donna Rotunno outside the courthouse. Donna, I'm going to start with you. Can this work, and would the judge allow it?
I don't think it will work, and the judge is going to allow arguments, and he's obviously going to allow a hearing, but in the end, I don't think he's going to rule in the defense favor. I do agree that this is sort of throwing everything at the wall and see what sticks, and I do agree with the defense attorney that spoke previously. This is their job. Their job is to make sure that they vigorously defend their client and zealously advocate for him, but at the same time, I'm also not a fan of motions that I think are frivolous and potentially not brought in good faith, because in this circumstance, I just don't see how they are going to prevail. This argument is reaching, and I do think it's going to fail.
Josh, so you have the daughter of a senior member of the prosecutorial team in Utah, and she was texting basically to say, I'm still here, I'm okay. So how could the defense look at that and say, that means that everybody on the entire team is tainted by her feelings in that moment?
Well, to Donna's point, it's grasping at straws. I don't think there's legs to this argument at all. And I actually don't know if they're even making it entirely to win. And what I mean by that is this defense is previewing for us how the rest of the defense is going to go, and that they're going to leave no stone unturned. They're going to file every motion that they possibly can, even some that they believe aren't entirely winners, because one, they're trying to get the death penalty off the table, so they're making any effort they can to do that. But two, they're setting up any possible appeal. If he is convicted, if he is given the death penalty, immediately it goes into appeal, and every single one of these points can be relitigated again. So I think they're laying that groundwork for that possible appellate work.
Let's talk about the roommate lover of the suspected assassin, and that is Lance Twiggs. And this complaint from an anonymous family member that he doesn't have FBI protection anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really about the FBI deciding to remove protection or deciding that the reason for the protection is no longer necessary. Initially, I think it was smart. Who knows? People were upset about this, and who knows what efforts somebody might have taken to harm him. Now that that time has passed, maybe they feel that that protection is no longer necessary. I think what was also interesting, what the family member said, though, is that he wasn't voluntarily coming forward. This is something where they had to go out and find him and bring him in and get him to talk. And I think the reason why he's cooperative is because he knows he could be in trouble otherwise.
Well, the point she was making was that he did everything that he was supposed to do. And I didn't know that people had to be asked to tell the truth and to do the things that they have to do, especially they know that the FBI wants to talk with them. Donna, what do we know about what's transpired with this individual in terms of the case?
I mean, we do know that he cooperated when asked. We do know that he turned over messages. He discussed the communication and conversations he had with Tyler Robinson. It looks as if he disclosed elements of their relationship, the way that they knew each other, the relationship they were in. So it seems as if he was cooperative. And, you know, to your point, Harris, that's really what you should do in this type of a circumstance. I did think he knew that the walls were kind of closing in on him, and he really didn't have a choice and had to talk to the government about what was happening. They could have charged him with obstruction, and I'm sure they let him know that. I'm sure they also let him know that they would be subpoenaing his phone records. They would be going through communications. They would look at the online communications that they had with the gamers. So I'm sure that, you know, not only were his feet held to the fire, but he knew that he could potentially be liable for some criminal prosecutions as well.
All right. Donna and Josh, I want to thank you both. I know that there will be so much more to come because the way you guys laid it out today was that they're going to just motion the poor judge to death to try to stall this case for their client on the defense side. Thank you both.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.